Welcome back, Year 9s. We're going to continue on with our little journey into trigonometry today, and we're going to apply the lesson that we learned yesterday into some slightly more complex problems. I don't think it's going to prove to be too difficult for you, but I thought what we might do before we start is to just refresh our memories about what we learned yesterday. So let's start off with this little thing here, SOH CAH TOA. And we'll start with SOH. SOH is SOH. The S stands for sine, and sine is the ratio of opposite to hypotenuse. So sine is equal to the opposite, the sine of an angle is equal to the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. Then we have CAH. CAH is CAH. C stands for cosine of the angle, equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. CAH. And finally we have TOA. And tan of an angle, I'm just putting theta, that's the Greek letter theta of this, is theta, for an unknown angle. An angle, tan of a theta is equal to the opposite over the adjacent, thus OA, TOA, opposite over adjacent. The first letter always stands for whether you're dealing with sine, cosine or tangent. The second letter decides which is top of the fraction, and the last letter is at the bottom of the fraction. Well, I hope that is a good refresher for you. Again, remember to make sure that your calculators have D when you turn them on at the top. You want to see that D there because that's in degrees. If it's not like that, just do click on Shift Setup and press 3 for deg, which will give you everything in degrees, which is what we want at this level at the moment when we're dealing with trig. Now, today we're going to look at some problems which require us to make multiple steps. So you can see in this particular problem here we've got x and y, and depending on where you start you could have problems. Okay, so you see there's two triangles. There's this triangle here, which is a right angled triangle, and that's what we're doing, right angled trigonometry. We're only learning right angles trigonometry at the moment. Then you also have this one here, okay, that shares that line there, doesn't it? Right, so you've got two triangles and there's this right angle there. Now we can only start with, I hope none of you are colorblind, we can only start with this green triangle, the bigger one on the left, okay? And the reason for that is we don't have enough information in the right hand triangle. You see, we've got one piece of information that we know, but we have two pieces of information that we don't know. So we can't do trigonometry with only one piece of information here. Whereas on the other side we know an angle and a side and only one missing piece of information. So when you're looking at the questions in this exercise today, you want to start with the triangle where you have two pieces of information that are known, one angle and one side, and that will help you find another side, and you might be able to work your way around the triangles till you get to the unknown. Okay, so that's my little tip to you today. So let's start with the green triangle. Okay, with the green triangle we have a hypotenuse here, and this is our opposite. So we must be dealing with SOH. So I'm going to say sine 30 is equal to opposite, which is my unknown, over my hypotenuse, and well, which is 10, isn't it? So I can just write 10. Now, what I can now do is I can rearrange the formula. So x is equal to 10 times sine 30. And we pop that in the calculator, and what do we get? Well, it's going to be 5. Okay? Now that we know that this is 5, that will help us with the other triangle. Let's label our sides for the blue triangle. This is our hypotenuse, which we don't need. The 5 that we've just found is opposite, see it's straight across from here. And the y is adjacent. So we're looking at adjacent and opposite. So we will say tan, right? It's this one. So we go tan 42 equals the opposite, which we found to be 5, over the adjacent, which we don't know. Now, we did these kinds yesterday. How do we get the y by itself? We're going to multiply both sides by y. We're going to, sorry about that, we're going to multiply both sides by y. So we will get y tan 42 equals to 5. And I want to get that y by itself. So how do I get rid of that tan 42? I'm going to divide both sides by tan 42. So I should get this. Now if we whack that into the calculator, what do we get? 5 divided by, or 5 over tan 42. Make sure you put a bracket at the end of that. Now I'm getting 5.55 is my final answer there. Okay, well, let's move on. I've got another one that we can do. This one's a little bit more complex, as you can see. So let's have a look. Okay, which triangle are we going to start with? Well, let's have a look. This one here, the blue triangle. We've got the unknown that we want to find, but we've only got one known, don't we? So we can't start with that one. Then this triangle here, whoops, doesn't want me to use a different color for some reason. Oh yes, it does. Now it does. This one is green. This triangle here. And again, you can see that we've only got one piece of information. So I'll go down to this last one here. Oh look, you can see that we've got two pieces of information. Right? We've got two pieces of information. We've got the angle and the side. So remember what I told you, you want to start with the one where you've got two pieces of information. So let's start with that one. Now, this is our hypotenuse because it's opposite the 90-degree angle, and this is our adjacent because it's next to the 40. But what do I want to find out? Well, I think I want to find out this side here, because that will help me use the green triangle to find this side here, which will mean I'll be able to find that there. So think ahead. I need to get one side of the green triangle to be able to find one side of this blue triangle, which will help me find x. So that's the route I'm taking here, team. So once I know this, I've got two things I know in green, which means I can find this, which means that I've got two things I know in blue. Okay? You've got to be like a little detective here. Excuse me. So let's start with that red triangle. Now, what have we got here? Adjacent, and we want to find the opposite. I'm going to call it y. Okay? Yo, y. So we're going to go opposite and adjacent, which is tan, right? So I'm going tan 40 equals opposite, which is my unknown. So we'll call it y, over adjacent, which is 7. So y is therefore equal to 7 tan 40. Now, you type that in your calculator and you'll get 5.87. But what I want you to do is store that unrounded number, because it goes on ... right? Okay. So to store an unrounded number, you press Shift, and then there's a button that says RCL, and above that it says SCO. So you press that RCL button after you've pressed the Shift, and then you choose a letter. I'm going to store mine as A, and I think you should too. So click the button which has a little red A above it. So that's just above the store button. And now that has been stored to A in your calculator. Now the reason that we do this is because it's best to use unrounded numbers. Remember we talked about that earlier in the year? So if we use unrounded numbers, we can remain accurate throughout our calculations. Now, I'm going to move to the green triangle. I now know two parts of the green triangle. Now this is a hypotenuse, I don't know that. I want to find the opposite, and I'm going to call that Z, and I know the adjacent, right? 50, adjacent, because I just worked it out to be this. So, if I've got adjacent and opposite again, it's tan. Tan 50 equals my opposite, which I don't know. over the adjacent, which I just worked out to be 5.87, and I've got that stored in the calculator. So z should be equal to 5.87 multiplied by tan 50. Now what you're going to do, instead of putting 5.87, you're going to use the unrounded number. So you can go alpha A times, so alpha A is the red button at the top next to shift, alpha A, and that will bring back the A. So just start again. Just press the clear button, the orange button AC, press that, then press alpha A equals, and it should come up with your 5.873697 blah blah, okay? Then go times tan 50, put your bracket at the end there, equals, and you should get 7. Okay? Now that we know that that is 7, we have, so I'm going to write there 7, we've got two things to help us find the last part of our equation. We want to find x. Now, this is hypotenuse, and the x is opposite, so I'm going to use sine. Sine 30 equals opposite, which is x, the unknown, over hypotenuse, which we've just found to be 7. So we rearrange that by timesing both sides by 7, and that should give us x. So x should be equal to 3.5. And that's a more complex one done for you. Now you've got a whole lot like this in your exercise. Do your best to get through them. Of course, if you're getting stuck, let me know. I'll just show you how to do one more. I'm not going to do it for you, but I'll show you the stratagem for approaching it. Here's number 2 from your exercise. The first step is to find out the triangle with 2 pieces of information. Well, this triangle here, you've got that, but you don't know that and you don't know that. So that's not helpful. But this triangle here, this one here, you can see that you've got 1 piece of information, 2 pieces of information. So you can use those 2 pieces to find this. And once you've got that, you can use the second triangle, that and the x, to find the y. So that would be the strategy there. So always look for the triangle that's got an angle and a side, and that will help you figure things out in this exercise. Alright team, take care, God bless.